I'm fine, ma. It's been ages.
Yes, so
How are you doing at the faculty?
we're managing. We thank God for everything.
I think we are now time to start. Please, we can start. Professor Professor Kene Ezendoka, I promoted you by making you a daughter to Professor Tomori, but now let me demote you a bit. You're supposed to be a granddaughter to Professor Tomori, not even a.
Okay.
So though you're a professor. So, but let me demote you a bit from being a daughter to being a granddaughter. So please moderate our Oga.
Professor
Okay.
Kene, I'm glad to hear you.
I'm so glad to be here, sir. So, good morning, everyone. We are all welcome to another scintillating time with Bloomberg Television. Lots of interesting topics and issues have been discussed on Bloomberg TV. Today, we're going.
Oh, sorry. Please unmute yourself. You muted you wrongly. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, I've done that.
No,
Yeah.
she has not done that. Unmute. Okay,
I've done that.
Okay.
Okay, so let me continue. So as I was saying, today we'll be talking about Mpox. Mpox is a viral disease that is currently a public health menace. And this issue, this topic will be handled and trashed by our foremost virologist, Professor Oyewale Tomori. Let me just give you a little insight on who we invited here. Professor Tomori began his early career as a researcher at the University of Ibadan as early as 1971. I'm sure most of us were not born then. Not most of us, though, some of us. In 1981, he was recognized by the United States Center for Disease Control for contributions he made to Lassa fever research. He was the virologist for the WHO Regional Office for Africa, establishing the African Regional Polio Laboratory Network. In 2002, he received the Nigerian National Order of Merit, which happens to be the country's highest award for academic and intellectual attainment and national development. He later served as the pioneer vice chancellor of the Redeemers University here in Nigeria, a position he held for 8 years. Prof has served or continues to serve on numerous advisory committees at both national and global levels. Nationally, he served as a committee member on with Lassa Fever Steering Committee, Laboratory Technical Working Group, Expert Group on Polio Eradication and Routine Immunization, and a member of the Advisory Committee on COVID-19 Response. Internationally, he has worked as a member of different WHO committees, Committee on Polio Certification, Committee on Yellow Fever Disease, COVID-19 Vaccine Composition, and also a committee member of the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. Prof is one of those that worked tirelessly to curb the pandemic that took the world by storm as an advisor to the Regional Director, World Health Organization Regional Office for Africa on laboratory planning and quality during the 2020 to 2023 COVID-19 pandemic. Professor Oyewale Tomori is a past president of the Nigeria Academy of Science with experience in virology, disease prevention and control. He's also a member of the United States National Academy of Medicine and the fellow of the International Science Council. Currently, he serves as the president, West African Network of National Academies of Science. He has authored or co-authored over 180 scientific publications. Wow. Okay, for the want of time, at this juncture, I would like to welcome on board a revered virologist whom veterinary family holds in high esteem. And it is my singular honor and privilege to present to you Professor Oyewale Tomori. Prof, you're welcome.
Thank you, Ekene, my new granddaughter. It's really a pleasure to be here. And again, to Charles, you've always been somebody I admire since first I met you. But I still remember the time. One thing I always remember was one of the meetings of the fellows of the veterinary academy. We had a meeting somewhere, and I think Junaidu was chair then. And there was something, and he actually wanted to walk you out, and we're saying, no, you must be allowed to speak. And so when I see speak out, my mind goes back to that day that you always want to speak out your mind. So which is true, and that's the way we should be. So you are welcome to this platform of the friendly people. Even before you all came, we started talking about family relationship, about who married who, and what autonomous society do we belong to. This is a factor, and the thing that binds all of us is the veterinary medicine. So this morning in our conversation, I use the word conversation. It's going to be on monkeypox, and I'm going to be your storyteller. Quickly, I'll look into what some introduction, which I've already done, and I ask about what is monkeypox, or mpox, as they now call it, a little bit about the history and the discovery. With the point to you that it's just that the monkeys can't talk. That's why they are calling it monkeypox. They have absolutely nothing to do with it. They were also infected like any other person, but now they got the name monkeypox. What types of viruses, what kind of outbreaks have we had? What are the pandemics that have occurred? How do we prevent it? And what's the role of everybody? And then in conclusion, I want to go back. That's just to show you that the virus, what it looks like under the electron microscope and what it looks like when it touches somebody's hands. Mpox is a viral illness which is caused by the monkeypox virus. It's a species of the genus Otopox virus. That is the ones that belong to the smallpox. These are some of so I wanted to give some brief, quick key facts about it. There are two different clades. There's what's called clade 1 and clade 2. We'll be talking a little more about that. And the common symptoms of this are just a rash, see a rash on the body, which can last up to 2 to 4 weeks. And then you have the most viral infection. You have fever, headache, muscle pain, and some joint pain. There's a weakness, general weakness. And then this differentiates you from smallpox. You have the swollen lymph node, which you don't get with smallpox. Monkeypox can be transmitted from one human being to another through direct contact or through physical touch with the person or with something that has been contaminated by that person, either your table, your cup, your door handle, virtually everything. That's why it's really quite, one has to be very careful when you're dealing around with somebody who has the monkeypox. You can also get infected through contact with the animals. We still don't know exactly what were the real hosts of monkeypox, but laboratory confirmation is done by testing the skin lesion, usually by PCR. You're going to discover that other techniques are not that particularly good. When somebody has monkeypox, treatment is just by supportive care. Vaccines and therapeutics which were developed for smallpox have been adapted now for the use of monkeypox. In fact, if you have had smallpox vaccine before, you are likely to be protected between 60 to 80%. But then, of course, that doesn't mean now because smallpox vaccination was stopped way back since 1980. So let's look at, these are the kind of things, lesions you find in the body of people who have smallpox, on the hand, on the face. It affects everybody, not just Black people like us, but also affects other white. And you can see to the left corner, gradually what you see as the scab that becomes that rash that turns into this deep-rooted thing and causes a pus in between, which contains a lot of viruses. So again, back to the story I'm talking about, it is caused by the monkeypox virus. It is an enveloped double-stranded DNA virus as distinct from the RNA virus, which is what is COVID. And virtually every species in the poxviridae family, everybody has his own pox, cow pox, camel pox, rabbit pox, chicken pox, all sorts of things, you know. So, and they include things like the vaccinia virus, which was what was used originally The cowpox was used originally to produce the vaccine that protected people. As I mentioned, there are two genetic clades, clade 1 and clade 2. Now, it was first discovered in Denmark in 1958 in monkeys that were kept in a research lab. These monkeys were actually imported from Singapore. So unfortunately, as people give the impression, we've made it, almost making it like it's an African problem. It's not. The original monkeys came from Singapore. They went to the lab in Denmark, and they were there for about 50 or 60 days, which nobody knew. So it couldn't have been that they carried it from Singapore. So they must have got infected in the lab in Denmark. Unfortunately, that could not be traced. So, but after that, 1958, there were one or two other cases, lab infections. In fact, there were 2 lab infections in 1958 in that particular lab at different times. And then, but then the first human case was in a 9-month-old child in DR Congo, and that was in 1970. And then Nigeria reported its own first case in 1970, yeah, about the same pattern in 1972, but we didn't get anything until 1978, and then later on, now we're getting cases. It can be spread from person to person, or occasionally from animals to people. The problem is we don't have the full knowledge of the animals, the animal host. So where people suspect rodents, monkeys, but that's just about we know. And these are some of the areas of research that we need to take seriously on our own side, because this is our problem as it is. It has remained endemic here. And we still lack a lot of knowledge about what exactly is. If you don't know where the reservoirs are, how can you begin to think of protection? When smallpox was eradicated in 1980 and they smoked the smallpox vaccination, the emergence of the monkeypox came in, not really first in Africa. And so, as I said, the natural reservoir is unknown. All sorts of small animals, squirrels, monkeys are associated with it. There was a huge and global outbreak in 2022 to 2023. We'll talk a little more about that when we get to that point. Transmission is person to person, and it can occur through direct contact with infectious skin or other lesions. And also other things that, the person, that lesion, the spores, as I mentioned, the scar, the scab that you get and turns out to this thing has a lot of virus. And then that can then contaminate your table, your beddings and everything, and then end up with people getting contaminated. We use the word fomites in those days. So you can have the thing, talking or breathing very close to a person who has it, skin to skin, mouth to mouth, mouth to skin contact, or even as respiratory droplets. The virus enters the body through possibly any broken skin or through your mucosal surface, like the oral, pharyngeal, nasal, genital, anywhere, rectal, via anything. It's a very ubiquitous virus. It can go through anything, and then it can then spread to other members of the household, or even your sexual partners. So people with multiple sexual partners are usually at very high risk. There is the transmission of animal to human, which we said infected animals from the bites or scratches of animals, or during activities, so that when people hunt, when they skin the animals, when you trap them, when you cook them, when you're dealing with the raw carcass of the animal. The circulation in the animal population is not really known. I've mentioned that again because not much studies have been done about that. Still talking about transmission, people can actually contract monkeypox from contaminated objects such as the clothing and the linen through sharp injuries in the healthcare or in the community, such as when people go to tattoo parlors and those other places. Well, what are the signs and what are the symptoms? You usually begin a week after one has been infected, after exposure. But it could take anything from 1 day to 21 days before you begin to see the signs and symptoms. And the symptoms will last anything about 2 to 4 weeks. It could be longer in some people, especially those with weakened immune system. The common symptoms and things we see, rash, that's what you see, as I said, within a week of being infected, the rash comes out. Then sometimes it's fever that comes first, sore throat, headache, muscle aches. There's a backache, low energy, and then the swollen lymph nodes, which I said differentiating from what we have in smallpox. For some people, the first symptom is actually the rash. Then they begin to see the other things like the things we listed, the joint pains and all that, and fever. So the rash begins as just a flat sore. Then it develops into a blister. This blister is filled with liquid, and this is the liquid that contains the virus and may be very itchy or painful. The rash will eventually heal, and the lesion will dry up and then cross and even follow. If there's no complication, it's a self-limiting disease on its own, but of course it's an opportunity to spread it. And skin lesions, can be few or can be really take all over the body, hundreds or more. And they can appear anywhere on the body, from the palms of the feet to the sole of the feet, to the face, to the mouth, to the throat, to the groin, to the areas, to even the anus. And then, which of course, when it gets the rectum, it causes a very severe pain. And when people are peeing, they have problem with it. The case will remain infectious, to other people until the sores, which you find, which have healed, and the new skin layers form. So the fact that they crossed and these have dropped off, until those sores are completely healed and covered with new skin, that person is still infectious. So children, especially pregnant people and people with weak immune system, are very, very good risk of complications. Can you please mute whoever is there? So the monkeypox rash begins on the face, I'm just summarizing, and spreads all over the body. It extends to the palm, the soles of the feet, and evolves within 2 to 4 weeks at different stages. So it becomes start as a macule, as a purple, as a vesicle, and then end up as a pustule. A little more about rash. The lesion will deep in the center before crossing over, and then so that these scabs then follow, and they leave this little scar, which needs to heal, but can still become the source of infection. Swollen lymph node is a classic feature of monkeypox, which distinguishes it from smallpox. Some people can be infected without even developing any symptoms at all. In severe cases, the skin can then become infected with bacterial infection, leading to abscesses and serious skin damage. And other complications include, because the virus can grow virtually anywhere, and if somebody has poor immune status, you can end up with pneumonia, with corneal infection, loss of vision. You have pain and difficulties in swallowing, leading to vomiting and diarrhea with severe diarrhea and malnutrition, sepsis, encephalitis. Affects virtually everything, causing inflammation in all of the areas where it affects, particularly in people with immune suppression and that have HIV. Diagnosis is very difficult because it looks, clinical diagnosis, the rash looks very much like that of chickenpox, measles, and other bacterial skin infections, or like scabies, herpes, syphilis, and again, other STDs. So clinically, it's very difficult, and that's why it's important to quickly get a lab test for early diagnosis, so that you can quickly isolate the person and start treatment, and so as to prevent spread of the infection. To this, and the laboratory test is usually by PCR, looking for viral DNA by the PCR. It is the best. The best sample you can take is directly from the rash, that is maybe from the fluid of the cross, or which if you're going to collect from the skin in something, you have to do by vigorous swabbing. Other samples, either the oral, the pharyngeal, or rectal swabs. Testing blood is not really recommended, although you can do antibody detection, but then this will not distinguish between the different octopus viruses. So I don't even want to wait until you develop antibody before you do your diagnosis. That's why the PCR becomes the one that we use. So the goal of treating the monkeypox is to take care of the rash, manage the pain, and prevent complications. That's the goal. And that way, when you manage the rash, then you show that it's not spread to other people, and you don't lead to the pandemic that we're looking at. And there's so much pain, I said, so try to manage the pain and prevent it, people having complications. Early supportive care, therefore, is very important to help manage these symptoms. There's a vaccine, or actually there are 3 or 4 different vaccines. I'll talk a little more about that one, which were adapted from the old smallpox. Like I mentioned, if you get the smallpox vaccine, you're likely to have about 80% protection against monkeypox. But again, it can be given within 4 days of contact, and so it can actually be used for prevention. Even though you have had contact before this may develop, or to prevent infection. Again, people who are at high risk, like health workers, people who have male sex with male and people who have multiple sex partners, they are really at very high risk. And these are the people that need to get vaccinated as quickly as possible. It is important to isolate the case and institute infection prevention and control procedures. There are available antivirals. There's one called tecovirimat, which originally developed to treat smallpox. It's also effective against monkeypox. A little bit of monkeypox in retrospective, ancient and modern. In 1958, I said it came from Singapore. Monkeys got into Denmark where it got infected. 1970, and also in Nigeria, we had the first human case reported in the two countries. Nothing happened in Nigeria. Sorry, we had the case in 1978, somewhere in the southwestern part of Nigeria. But thereafter, until 2017, 2018, we didn't have any more situation in Nigeria. Not only 2018, a case was moved out of Nigeria. And that case that went to Nigeria eventually became the explosion that we had in 2022 in Europe. By 2023, the monkeypox returned to Africa. He actually never left Africa. He just came back with more virulence. Now, this is quite a busy thing, but this is a population that came in looking at monkeypox cases and death. First, at the top corner, you see the situation in Nigeria, reporting from 1970 up to 2022. I'm going to give you more details later about what is happening. Down below that, you see the entire African region, different regions of the world that have where we have monkeypox. And then to your right, you see situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where we have had the largest number of cases being reported. And the cause of some of the problems we're having right now is because of what is happening. Some of these slides that came in from the WHO website and also from meetings which we have received. In the last 12 months, this has been the situation. The African region, to your top left corner, you see the increasing number of cases that is occurring. First in the region, the African region. At the bottom of that is the region of the Americas. Towards the right of Africa, you have the Eastern. So you can see the different regions. So our major areas of this are in the Western Pacific and in the African region. Although the cases in the Western Pacific are really going down. You don't have too much of the Eastern Mediterranean or European Union, but both in the Americas, in the African region, and in the Western Pacific, that's where you're having situation. I'm putting in the situation of looking at Africa's situation from the inception between 2022 and now. You remember I mentioned something that was when the world declared public health emergency of international concern. If you look right on to the beginning of the slide in 2022, you see the cases coming up. And by May 2022, we start, the DRC was made between May and April 2022, we see DRC having 62 cases. WHO, you can see the graph that is showing all throughout the period. Even after the world had been declared free, when they said the fake was no longer there, the situation became worse in the African region. Early towards the end of the 2022, 2023, and we're having major cases now occurring in those places. Not only did it start in DR Congo, but because of the neglect of it, the disease has spread to neighboring countries, Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya, Uganda, which have been infected by the virus clade that came in from DR Congo. South Africa also reported, but their own came from the clade that is from the West African region. This is the curve in the African region, again, showing you that we actually are having an epidemic going on, and it shows you by the different countries where the cases are occurring. Nigeria is there in the blue, my color, I'm a bit colorblind, so I don't know which, but somewhere in the end there's Nigeria where we're having the cases. But you can see that we obviously are having a major epidemic occurring also in the African region. That's another graph that shows the trend of this between 2022 and 2024. The number of cases from 2022 to date has increased about 160% between 2023 and 2024, while from 2022 to 2023 was just 79%. So we're actually seeing an escalation of cases, from year to year, in the African region. This shows you the different clades, especially in the DR Congo, that is happening. They have what they call clade 1A, and now they have a new one called clade 1B, which is occurring. And those graphs shows you the spread in different parts of DR Congo. You can see an epidemic which is going on according to the clade 1B. Actually started around March of 2023 and is now actually spreading all over the place there. That map shows, it is not that clear, but it shows you, I have a better map of Africa, shows you the clades that have been found in different parts of the world, where you see the dark colors. These are the areas, the different parts of the world where these clades have been found. Now that's a better map that shows you what the situation is in the African region. To the west coast of Africa, you see clade 2. That's the one we have in our own. So virtually all the countries in Africa have. I'm surprised that we jumped Benin Republic and Togo. I'm sure the diseases are there, but it's just they're not looking for it. To the Central Africa and Southern Africa, you have the clade 1. The clade 1, which is what occurs mainly in DR Congo and those other countries which I mentioned. Cameroon has both. The southern part of Cameroon has the clade 1, while the western part, the upper part that are closer to Nigeria, has the clade 1. That's the country that has both of the clades. Again, take a better look at what you see and see the distribution of what we're having. There are 13 of the member states in the African region that have this disease, and they are all reporting cases. You see the color code showing you who has clade 1 and clade 2. That's DR Congo, Cameroon. And you see the one that has clade 2 is the West Coast. In the middle, Central Africa is where you have the clade 1. And right down South Africa and part of Mozambique is where you have the clade 2. I got this slide from Dr. Professor Oyewale, who made this about, again, showing what happened in Nigeria. Between 1971 to 78, we had 3 cases, nothing between 79 and 2016. From 2017 onwards, we started having cases. I upgraded this slide in the next, which also shows the difference between male and female. I done this one, again, repeating the same thing, that particularly in 2022, the number of cases will probably have the highest number. As of this year, we have reported up to August 25, we have reported about 48, almost 50 cases in the country. Now, why are we worried about monkeypox? Because there's a high risk because of the significant increase in the number of cases and the number of countries affected. The spread to the new countries and provinces within the countries. And the issue of the fact that we're now having sexual transmission of clade 1. There's a low public awareness about monkeypox. If I probably talk to people in Nigeria, they probably look at you, what are you talking about? There's high prevalence of people, especially with HIV and malnutrition in the African region, especially in the southern parts. And these are because of the limited response capacity of many of the African countries, poor funding of surveillance, no contact tracing, with poor case management, no IPC. All these are no medical countermeasures. All these are the things that are before. But then you see, one of the things I wanted to raise here, you all remember when we had Ebola in 2014, and within a short space of 3 months, we actually took care of it, about 20 cases and 11 deaths. It never spread. Everybody thought when Ebola came to Nigeria, that was the end of Africa. But then what did we do? Pure, simple, good surveillance, contact tracing, isolation of the cases, prevention and the IPC and things like that. And there was no vaccine used. And there are a few other African countries that have actually contained disease like that. Uganda did the same thing with Ebola in 2018. Kenya took care of anthrax in the remote village by simple surveillance and all that. What I'm trying to make is that we have strength in that area. But instead of funding that, and you all know prevention is better than cure, the cost of putting money into surveillance is so minimal compared to having to look for vaccine. Whereas you can't even get a vaccine. Even when you get it, it's not easy to get. So why are we in Africa not putting our money into those areas where we have the resources, we have the expertise? I'm glad my brother Michael Azuzu is on this. They've been dealing with community medicine all their life. They know that we have strength in this. Why are we not putting money into those places rather than them looking at our area of weakness and trying to embrace that and beginning to beg people for vaccines? So the risk is to other parts of the world is also there. So as we go on, why I've already tried to explain why we have a major risk in Nigeria. In Africa, there's cross-border. Our borders are porous. In the area where it's happening in the DR Congo, there's conflict, the war, and everything. So you can't even do what you need to do about surveillance and all that. The fatality rate is going up. Especially now it's affecting children, those children. And we are having pregnant women getting infected and aborting and dying. So these are the virus is mutating also. So these are some of the things that makes people to worry. So the challenges we have, I try to address that. Weakness of Charles Ibe was mentioning something about community medicine, One Health, and all that, even before we started. That is still a weakness. We talk about it, we do nothing about it. We are all in our different silos doing our own thing, yet the diseases are killing us, and yet we can pull all our resources together. Even the African Center for Disease Control and the WHO African region, they're not even collaborating with each other. It's a competition, and these are some of the things. So it's not just in the multi-sector, even at the regional level, at the country level, their One Health coordination is gone, and we need to do something about that. Because this is a disease that most of the diseases we're talking about that cause epidemics are zoonotic diseases that are found in animals. If you can't even discover where your animals have it, how do you know where you're going to control it? Surveillance, I already mentioned that. We are just not there. And it's not that we don't, when people say we have low capacity for detection, I challenge that. We have the high capacity for it. We're just not funding the resources. I'm going to talk a little more about this monitoring of point of entry and other things. The NCDC put up a paper and said we should be filling form to come into the country. First of all, I had that one. I've traveled out once or twice now. Nobody has asked me about the form. That's number one. Even when the form comes and I fill it, most people know they don't want any problem. So if you say, are you a fever? They say no. If you have that, they say no. The form becomes a total waste of resources because all the thing is there. They may even go on and give you a wrong address, wrong phone number. So it becomes a total waste of resources, except you educate people, explain to them that this is for your own good. Then those forms will become a total waste of paper that we are piling up. The issue of IPC in many of our health centers, forget it. The kits are not there, gloves are not available, face masks, and even the robes that health workers just need to wear, it's not there. Our labs, it's a sad situation that when you talk about, years of disease epidemic, we are still saying that lab system in Africa is not working. You remember when we had the COVID in Nigeria, we started by saying we had only 3 laboratories. By the time COVID finished, within 2 years, we already got 100-something laboratories. But you know what happened? Within 6 months of those labs being in place, over 60% were no longer reporting. Why? Corruption and other things. So when you give a state government 100 naira to build a lab and say 50 for the building, 30 for equipment, and 20 for staff, the government will take whoever is the contractor takes 20 to do all of that one and pockets 80. So 3 months later, the lab is no longer functioning. Those are some of the things we need to begin to look at. It's not that we don't have the capacity, we don't have but the resources and the enabling environment for these resources to function well. The issue of countermeasures. We have no vaccine, we have no drug, we have no diagnostic. Everything is negative, and these are some of the areas. The response at the African region is to look at develop national resource plans, have meetings with the advocacy meetings. They have deployed technical assistance to countries, and they are conducting readiness assessment while they are distributing diagnostic, some of the areas where we are short of this. I'm not going to let you go into that, just to let you know that at the global level, there's preparedness and response plans are in place. It is not enough to have plans. It is enough to put money to make sure that those plans are working at the global level, at regional level, and the country level. Plans are in there. We are fantastic at making plans. Implementing them has always been a problem. Implementing is not that we don't have the resources. I'm going to talk about that again. It's not that we don't have resources. We are misusing our resources. We're not putting funds. Every epidemic is an opportunity for somebody to steal money. Remember COVID? My government put out 500 billion for COVID. And now the Senate is, or whoever is investigating what they've done with it. On record, about 375 billion of that money actually went into non-COVID issues. Toilet, building this, building that, contract for this, contract for that. And that's where the problem is. So again, Africa has its own plan, but its own plan is one thing to have a plan, it's another thing to get it done. They've talked about one coordinator plan, they talk about joint leadership at Afro, which again, I mentioned briefly, it's not happening. There's trying to beg partners to get this in, and then categorizing countries according to the risk profile. And then not only that, funding the plan, but that's where it ends, and that's where the story is. Do we have access to countermeasures like vaccines, like therapeutics, like diagnostics and other things, face masks and all that? Again, these are things that we need to have. We put our money is, instead of my president buying a Continental Escalade, what do they call it, for whatever, I'm buying a jet for 150 billion. They can't even buy a bicycle for a health center that has an AP division. So if you don't have the bicycle to go, how are you going to go and investigate it? The one tire from the presidential car can buy vehicles for many of these places here. So it is one thing to establish the medical countermeasures for access and allocation, but the mechanism is there. But if you don't have the money to even buy the countermeasures, what are you accessing? Again, these are all plans. I told you, plan is not a problem. We are well detailed with plan, but what we do with the plan. Let me quickly go through, so I won't waste your time about all that one, because you know already where our problems are. Vaccine deployment, that's what we are focusing on in Africa, in a way to get this. But then, to me, to stop the outbreak, it's not through vaccination. To stop the outbreak is through surveillance, through that one. Prevention has always been better than cure. Vaccine can use to prevent if you have a case, but how many doses of vaccine are you talking about? We have less than 100,000 doses of vaccine we're talking about for over how many million people. So that's why we can bring our surveillance to play into it and ensure. That's a picture which shows bilateral agreement of the vaccines that have been donated or will be donated to Africa at different times. But sometimes even when they give you the donation, they tell you where to use it. It's not the case of now I hear the piper dictates the tune, but now the piper is not dictating how you even dance to the tune. That's the situation we have reached now. So everybody is promising us vaccine, 50,000 here, 1 million here, that one and there. For example, the Japanese one, it takes almost about 5 to 6 months to even get all the process of getting that one. And when you receive it, what happens? Now they say 10,000 has come to Nigeria. Have we looked at the issue of the people's attitude to monkeypox vaccine? Already I'm hearing, I'm reading all sorts of things in the wave like, oh no, I don't want to use the monkeypox. No, they have not tested it. It's not that, this and that. So we've not even prepared ourselves to receive the vaccine, to deploy the vaccine, yet while we're receiving what it is. So vaccines, diagnostics, and treatments are things that WHO are working on. The question is, where do we come in Africa in all of these ones? Where do we come in? We just wait to receive. There's a blueprint for epidemics and research, but again, let me continue. So I'm looking to the future of my country. I'm looking, and you know, for Nigeria, Africa, and monkeypox, 55 years of a ravaging pox in the midst of our inaction, we accept and we live under a wrong name. They call us resource limited, but we're not resource limited, are we? We are resource wasteful and resource squandering. They say we are resource constrained. No, it's corruption that is constraining us. They say we are resource poor. No, we are just resource prodigal. So when you don't know exactly what you are, you put the wrong treatment. You are looking at resource limited. I mean, a rich man that has money and goes out to the street to go and beg. Something is wrong with that person. I don't want to say we have a mental problem in our destiny. I think we need in Africa to begin to look at the names they tag us with. We should question those names. I'm not a resource limited person. My country is not resource limited. My country is resource wasteful. So I will not know what to attack. Not the limit that I don't have it, but that I'm wasting what I have, that I'm squandering what I have. That's the solution I should look for. I'm not constrained by my resources. I'm constrained by the corruption that is going on. I'm not resourceful. I'm just a resource prodigal son, and that's what I am. So we disdain the talent. I mentioned all the experiences we have, from years past, from surveillance and all that. We disdain all that. We don't put little money into that. But then we're only embracing the weakness. That's the area of vaccines and things and countermeasures. And we begin to beg for crumbs of equity. So I'm looking at my country, and like these twins, I'm not happy at all. You may say, I bet many of you have not seen what I've seen in Nigeria and in many other parts, where seen is not seen. And that's the situation that we have. So distinguished and eminent leader, thank you very much. And Charles, your TV, thank you very much for bringing all of us together. And to our colleagues, thank you for listening.
Yes, a round of applause for you through many mechanisms. Before I hand over to Ezendoka, please, Ezen, be picking questions because you have to throw those questions to him. Granddaughter Ekene, you forgot to name Professor Tomori as part of our former president of Nigerian Veterinary Medical Association. Maybe he has forgotten that this is one of his accolades. He came to rescue us when we became militant, fighting ourselves. The younger generations. And then Oba Sansi, who was heading the board of trustees, appointed him to lead us in that dark hour, and he led us well. And today we have somebody like Moses Arokoyo leading us. If not, it was a game to scatter. For all places, ECOWAS Secretariat. That's where we took our pride. I would say our shame. After this, I have my way of doing things. Just like he said, the first time he noticed me, I was militant because I knew why I was militant. The lecturers were selecting the private vets, selecting against the private vets to lead the avian influenza, the avian influenza scourge, to lead the cartel of the avian influenza scourge without naming one private vet. And I had to stand on my feet and say it's impossible. It cannot be done. And it was not done. And we see how we came out of it. The private vets helped a lot to curtail the scourge, first in Africa. So that is me. I don't know why I am not seeing Professor Tomori's picture in our Hall of Fame.
To be there, I don't even know. You want to see the face?
No, I'm talking about your picture in our Hall of Fame. That's the ANVMA Secretariat, where the pictures of our former presidents, including myself, are lined. Professor Tomori's own is supposed to be there. Because in Nigeria, Shoniko's picture is lined among the former president and incumbent presidents of Federal Republic of Nigeria. He was an interim president, and his picture is supposed to be there. And I will continue to fight until one day I'll go into the secretariat, NVMA secretariat, to see his picture, because he filled up the vacuum. Unfortunately for him, his pictures will come in between the past and the present. That's before and after him, and all of them are all his grandsons, whether before him or after him. They're all his grandsons. But that is our history. That is our chemistry. And that is our stoichiometry. So that's the thing. I think his picture should be there. And I will fight for his picture to be there. A very great presentation from Ezendoka. Please be taking the question. But before that, I will call on Professor Mike Asuzu to give us a little gist on the need for interdisciplinary study between medicine and vet medicine. He's a medical doctor, a professor of community medicine. Please, Professor Mike Asuzu, my uncle, please unmute yourself and then just give us a small gist, advice. So we'll take it off from there. Prof.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm in departure lounge in Enugu Airport. Okay. You can hear all the noise here. Yeah. But I promised my brother that my aburo, that I will struggle to be listening here, especially since Oyewale Tomori will be talking. Whoever doesn't know who Oyewale Tomori is in public health, I think we should export him to another country. I will just tell my story. He summarized it very well. In 2005, I believe, Professor Oyewale Lambo was Minister of Health when the H5N1 came on board. He created a committee, a ministerial committee, to work on the prevention of H5N1 in Nigeria, because they had gone to a meeting in Canada and were advised that he was called aside and advised that Nigeria would be a terrible place for H5N1 to get to, because it will get everywhere else in Africa if it gets to Nigeria. So he set up that committee. It was my task to bring everybody on board, Ministry of Agriculture, veterinary unit, and all of that, to that thing. And we worked out 6 scenarios through which H5N1 will come into Nigeria. And number 2 was illegal importation of infected fowl to Nigeria. We submitted it on the 5th of December and said there is no budget for this activity. So the minister should look to Obasanjo for extra budgetary allowance to facilitate active work once we come back from Christmas and New Year and lesser Hajj holidays. Nothing happened until the scenario 2 brought H5N1 to Nigeria. I was calling the minister. He didn't pick. The phone wasn't going until they finished the National Council on Health that held in Jalingo that year. Said there was no reception there. And that was the last we had. Dr. Koka, A.B. Koka, Secretary, Chief Epidemiologist, was calling me, was Secretary of the committee. He's calling to say, Prof, they're hijacking this H5N1 thing from what we did. We phoned the minister. I said, no, my brother, my job is to do a professional and academic work. If politics takes it over, I don't bloody bother. But my record will show that I've done the job. Shortly after that, somebody called us. There's one health forum. And he knows that I was a past president of the Association for Public Health Physicians in Nigeria. I should mobilize all the public health physicians to join. I mobilized them, they joined. There is a WhatsApp and email forum, 2 fora. Then boys and girls, especially from Sokoto, UD, were saying that they have it on record that over 85% of human diseases are zoonotic. We say, what are you people talking? So hypertension is zoonotic. Sickle cell anemia is zoonotic. Cancer is zoonotic. The major diseases affect human beings. He said he has it on authority. Many of our boys just withdrew from the thing. He said, Professor, you can't be taking us to where people are just talking nonsense. That's number 2. Number 3, after what we did in our Association of Public Health Physicians, we started attending the World Federation of Public Health Associations. And the World Federation decided to form WHO regional branches of the World Federation. They came to form the Nigeria Federation in Ramasukru in 2011. And they wrote all the ministers of health in the WHO Africa region to come to Ramasukru for this event. Onyebuchi was the minister of health. So he took the national chairman of APHPN, Professor Oyekoji Enife, and in Benin, it was the biggest public health organization he knew, took her there. When they got there, they said, Oyekoji, Association of Public Health Physicians, an affiliate member of the World Federation already. But you know you can't hold office unless Nigeria develops a public health association that accommodates everybody who does public health. So he came back and started working on me. So we walked around. I took all the conferences. People have invited me to be keynote speakers in environmental health, in health education, everywhere. We sourced money from Institute of Public Health at Ife, when Fatusi was director. They gave us money to host us for a 2-day meeting. I got the boys in Ibadan to draft constitution and bylaw, 0 draft. We circulated it to the host officers, but they said to show commitment, you must fund president and secretary, or chairman and secretary to come to Ife. We will house them for 2 nights. We provide feeding, stationery. So we work out this association as a federation of existing national public health associations. We formed this 9 at that time. And we kept begging the veterinary public health people that we knew to join, that we had access to at the time. They said they didn't have a veterinary public health association separate. I said the veterinary public health caucus of the Nigerian, they will be admitted as a corporate body. They didn't join. No. Up till now, they didn't join. Up to now. Dr. Ogungbade was his name, came from the US. He was in Ede, on Deleke Ede University. In the panel, he said he will get the veterinarians to join because he came at our second national conference in Abuja. He said, I must get the veterinarians. He didn't get them to join. No, he's left. He's gone back to the US because they told him to run BSc Public Health. He told them, no, public health is a multidisciplinary, multi-professional organization or training or specialty. It's not a single discipline or a profession. So we can't run BSc Public Health. What would they know? They will have no skills. We'll just be training unemployable people. You know, in America, they may train that because you have to have a bachelor's degree before you come to a professional course. So for them, it's like a higher HSC. But in Nigeria, once you get 1 degree, you go and looking for a job. You have no skills. You have no deep enough knowledge to do anything. So he left the country, I'm telling you. He didn't get the veterinarians to join the Society for Public Health Professionals of Nigeria. We still exist. And nobody has joined. Whoever can bring your colleagues to join, to please join. That is where we are today. Before the Society for Public Health Professionals, we got the Nigerian Epidemiological Association, or EPISN, Epidemiological Society of Nigeria, as the presidency insisted we should have, not Nigeria Epidemiological Association, Epidemiological Society of Nigeria. When we formed it, we invited the public health, the veterinary public health people. That's where epidemiology, that's epizootiology. As a resident doctor, Professor Gabriel Eshurosho used to come and teach us epizootiology in our department residency program and open our eyes to the depth of knowledge of epidemiology that veterinarians have. My kinsman, Professor Timothy Obi, did serology, very fundamental to epidemiology, and you people do it. That's what Tomori has been doing with virology all over. So veterinary public health is so central to public health practice, but they have not joined anywhere me in my life have done. So yeah. The editorial board,
Prof. I think probably you were tangential to the wrong side of it. Give it to us, don't worry.
No, I'm coming.
What I'll do next month, I'll bring you on board for a full lecture like this.
Okay, I will just finish now.
Okay, good.
Professor Cadmus is the deputy editor of the Nigerian Journal of Epidemiology, or the Journal of Nigerian Epidemiological Association, to make sure that the vets are part of it. So, like during the COVID thing, the Society for Public Health Professionals formed state branches and worked with philanthropists, people who donate money, so they can use their money to tackle the thing as a team of professionals to help people who donate money, whether it's their town or their church or their mosque they want to give service to, provide them face masks, provide water supply for washing hands in their premises, and provide education. We have worked as teams in Nigerian scene. So that's where the issues are. How do we get politics out of, well, politics has to be there, but decent politics. And I beg all of us here, We should get the Nigeria that can become a nation. Get rid of money or popularity or any of that sectorial thing that gets into politics. That's preventing us from functioning. We have demonstrated capacity to work as a group for those who joined the public health disciplines working together with the COVID. Lagos, Anambra State, Edo State, Delta State were on the forefront of that, River State also. Groups work together. So that is possible, but we need to educate ourselves, but we need also to merge at the top. Thank you, and over.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very, very much. Professor Mike Asuzo was appointed by the then Minister of Health to head the human wing of avian influenza control. Why the minister, as my uncle, why the Minister of Agriculture appointed Professor Tomori, the same uncle of mine, to head the veterinary wing of the avian influenza control? You can see how I am in between. I was in between because we've lost Professor Tomori, in between two of them at the human and then at the veterinary. So I can, at least from that point of view, vantage point of view, be able to tell us that this thing he's itching for, I think I will assist to see that it's a fair accompli. What I'll do next month is I will bring him on board to give us a full lecture on this, on areas of interface or interdisciplinary areas in public health. Be it as it may, Kenebiko, sorry for hijacking your part of the assignment. Then the
no problem, sir. I've been waiting patiently. No problem, sir.
Okay.
So let's get back to Mpox and Professor Tomori, because I'm sure so many people are eager to hear again from him and to get questions answered. Prof, okay, let me just tell everyone, please drop your questions at the chat session, please, so that it will be orderly. As soon as I see it, I'll voice it out to Prof. So Prof, before we go on, I have just a few questions myself before I allow others to ask. You know, you made mention of Mpox being having multifaceted transmissions. There are so many ways you can the disease can be transmitted, which of course is quite worrisome. But I want to know, can we have like covalescent carriers like you have in Ebola? Because I know in Ebola, like a man that has gone through Ebola treatment and has survived Ebola can actually secrete the virus from the semen for up to 6 months. So, and you know, Mpox, you said, is sexually transmitted. So can we have like covalescent carriers when somebody recovers from Mpox, be able to like transmit it sexually as well, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, the virus has also been found in the semen of people who have recovered. So it's same type of thing we found with COVID. However, it has not been shown whether that person can transmit. I think it's going to be a dangerous thing to to start saying let's do an experiment to see if that can be transmit. The fact that we found it there is even worrisome. Yes. Even after recovery. That's number one. Number two, we do know that people who have recovered from monkeypox can still get infected for one reason or the other. So, and then we're dealing with different clades now. We have clade 1, it used to be clade 1, clade 2. Now it's clade 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. It was the 1B that caused all the wahala in Europe in those days. It is 1B now that is spreading in Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and all those places. So in terms of whether one can, let me just say not much is known about that. And remember, it's only now that a lot of studies are going on about monkeypox and many things. I mentioned, we don't even know who are the reservoirs of the virus, that kind of thing. I think these are some of the areas of studies that need to be done. And this is where our governments need to come in and not wait for WHO or Europe to sort out the problem. These are issues on ground for us to look at and to work on it interdisciplinarily. Now you're talking about possible transmission of somebody having monkeypox in the semen. That becomes a human angle. The monkeypox itself is a veterinary angle. And that's why we need to, the reason why we need to come together in the kind of, so to answer your question, not much is known about it. It's a possibility. If the virus is there, it can be spread or shared.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for the insight. That means whatever it is, we have to be very, very careful.
Very, very, yeah.
Concerning mpox. So we have a question from Chioma, Dr. Chioma Achi. She's asking, do you think we can prepare for Clade 1 in Nigeria? Chioma Achi is asking, do you think we can prepare for Clade 1 in Nigeria?
I think the same preparation. First of all, Clade 1 can come into Nigeria. There's no problem about that. Cameroon next door to us has Clade 1 in one part. In the southern part, we borders Bakassi side. So it's an easy thing for it to enter. Even not that one alone. The fact that, cases are occurring with South Africa just got Clade 2. So there's no reason why Nigeria can't get Clade 1. These are diseases. So if we can give it to them, they can also give it to us. So it's the same procedure that we need to do, that we're doing now for Clade 2, that we need to do for. So really it's difficult you don't know which clade is coming until it does occur before you test. And that's why the new idea, this porous border, point of entry becomes very important. And let's get information to our people. Filling that form is not a hassle. Filling the form is for the good of all of us. And the reason is if you can detect it early, you can prevent the spread to other people. Therefore, people need to be truthful. When they ask you what's your seat number, and you're sitting in 28A and you say it's 52B, you are sending the people in the off course because they'll be looking for people around 52B, when actually they should be looking for people around 28A. So that's why it is important for you and I and everybody who is involved in this, that this is for our own good. When those forms are finally put in share, although government has announced it, but I've been out twice now, nobody has asked me for it. But when that counts, so let's all participate in. That's the only way we can prevent other things coming into the country. Because if they quickly notice somebody is sick and they're able to treat, then you can, quickly put stop the spread of the virus. Just again, like I keep remembering how we stopped COVID, Ebola in 2014. We can do the same. We have the resources, but we need everybody's cooperation, especially the community. The awareness, their involvement, the contact tracing, and all those kind of things are very, very important.
Thank you, sir. Like you said, how to prevent this is basically proper surveillance. You mentioned it before that there should be proper surveillance, and I think I key into that. There should be proper surveillance to prevent the occurrence of these diseases. Now, there is another question from Chieluka, Dr. Chieluka. He's asking, do we now know the natural reservoir of mpox? If so, who are they? What are they? And if not, what are we doing as veterinarians to unravel these black spots? Yeah, I remember you mentioning, sir, that we don't actually know the natural reservoirs of mpox. But if I may add, like he said, he's asking, what are we going to do as veterinarians to unravel these black spots? I know we can do a lot, sir, but Prof, just give us
okay. So far, there are speculations that monkeys, rodents, squirrels, those kind of things carry the pox virus that affect man. But all these are just based on speculation or some serological studies which found antibodies in those animals in different parts. They've done that in DR Congo. I'm not too sure we've done. Well, let me say we've done it in Nigeria, but it has been a limited study. So far, the full range of natural hosts is not known, but we suspect rodents, squirrels, maybe monkeys or some of that nature, depending on what part of where you are. Unfortunately, this is where the investigation becomes very important. When we have a case of monkeypox coming from somewhere, it is important to be able to trace back. How did this person get it? What contact did he come with? Do you have contact with animals? All those kind of things. And that's where we need to begin to do that. That's where us as veterinary professionals, I know Clement Meseko in VOM and a group of people are getting together to work on looking at the reservoir host of monkeypox. I knew there was WHO involvement. They were supposed to have submitted some proposals, but I don't know the outcome of that. But even then, like I keep saying, all the TED fund money and all the time money that we put into research grants which yield nothing. These are areas where you, as veterinarians, us can get and apply and get involved in those kind of things. To carry out it, we don't have to wait for WHO to do that for us. Billions of naira are coming out of TED fund. Yes. Yeah, I was on one or two of their committees and I don't know how much money they are giving out. Do we as veterinarians go out and submit proposals for that? Those are areas that are opening for us to answer these questions for ourselves, for our people, for our country. And I think we can do that. And I hope a lot of young people who are listening to me now will begin to think of when TEDFund comes next time, draft up the proposal. Talk with the guys who are in the business, the Clement Mesekos in VOM and others, and get together and see what we can do on our side. Like I said, we have the strength, we have the human resources, we have the talent, but we will not create the enabling environment for the talents to function. And that's where we are today.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think we have heard you and we're going to key into it actually. It's just a matter of writing proposals to TED Fund, to do like a kind of seroepidemiological study on Mpox to be able to find out whether these reservoirs are even around us. Like we can do a seroepidemiology of Mpox in rodents, the ones that we come across. It's not going to be far-fetched, Prof. So we're going to key into that. Thank you very much, sir. So I don't know whether we have more questions. Okay, I'm not seeing more questions. Prof, please, I would like to know, we were not privileged to have seen smallpox lesion. So I would like to know, just for curiosity's sake, is it the same thing with monkeypox lesion or is it different? How would you differentiate between smallpox lesion and monkeypox lesion?
Actually, again, that's one of the difficulties. I mentioned one of the distinguishing factors between the two is that with monkeypox, you get lymphadenopathy, which is not that common with smallpox. But then that's minimal. But the lesions are, almost looking alike.
Like the same thing.
There's much, yeah, exactly. And that's the. So again,
molecularly, are they related?
Oh yeah.
Do you suspect there's a mutation?
No, it's the same
to the other.
Well, I guess the pox family has all sorts. I mentioned every species has its own pox. They're all in the same DNA virus, autopox family, autopox viridae. So each of them, just like we have with the what we call the group B arboviruses. You have yellow fever, you have West Nile, you have this, you have that.
We know what you're saying. That's it. You're talking about the vaccinia family, the vaccinia virus family.
Yeah.
You're talking about
yeah, exactly. So same autopox family. There's no much agreement. But like I said, there's specific species the inclination. Yes. So you have the cowpox, you have the monkeypox, you have the rabbit pox.
Why we are asking you this question is that I don't know, with the current trend of emergence and re-emergence of diseases, whether there is a movement, a navigation from one strain to the other, either through mutation or whatever, something close like that.
Oh yeah, of course, there are spillovers. All it requires is the contact between man and animals.
Yeah.
And the viruses which are in the animal population, we stay there if we don't go to them. When we mix with them, there's transfer on both sides. In fact, there was a story also of somewhere in, I think in one of the European countries, where a case, a man transmitted or transferred, infected his pet with the pox virus. So it was from human now to animals, instead of the other way around. So as long as there's contact between man and animal, we increase the chances of exchanging viruses.
Yeah, being prone.
Exactly.
Being prone. Ezendoka, Chioma Chijev asked a vital question.
I've already asked Prof. She was asking, how do you think we can prepare for Clade 1 in Nigeria? Yeah. Prof.
Yeah, that was it. When I answered that, the same system we have used. Yeah, and also, but then because Clade 1 is not with us yet, it's coming from outside. Our port of entry becomes an important endpoint for us to monitor what is coming in. Just like when COVID started, the first cases we had was an importation. We then spread within the country. So also, we need to take care of our port of entry, and also specifically require that all those of us who are traveling should not see the filling of the form as a hassle or as another whatever. It is for our own good. It is our own health. And therefore, the need for us to fill that form as truthfully as possible and not give a wrong telephone number, don't give a wrong address, and don't give a wrong seat where you're sitting with somebody else, because you make nonsense of the whole program by not telling the truth.
Exactly, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Like Dr. Ibe said, he talked about emerging and re-emerging diseases. Now, Mpox has been there as far back as 1958. So can we comfortably say that Mpox is a re-emerging zoonotic disease? Because when we teach in school, we just say that Mpox is emerging, because we've not been hearing of Mpox before. So we just start hearing of Mpox. So we say it's emerging. But I don't know whether we'll change that narrative from emerging to re-emerging. What do you think, Prof?
In fact, I will agree with you. And it is because we have little information on our data. We have little information. There's not efficient surveillance going on. I mean, you remember that in the graph I showed, we had one case in 1970, another 2 cases in 1970, one in 1978. Nothing happened in between until this sudden in 2017. It probably was there. And part of the reason also could be that during the period I mentioned that a lot of my generation, we got smallpox vaccination. And in a way, we were almost 80% protected against monkeypox. But then vaccination for smallpox stopped in 1980. And so even my own generation, I'm not sure how much of immunity I will have, after almost 30, 40 years of vaccination. So imagine the population that never even received the vaccine at all. So there was a possibility of exposure, people would not being immune, not being protected with the relative smallpox vaccine. But also the situation about HIV, malnutrition, all those immunodepressive things are also coming in to begin to raise it up. So in a way, the factors around are re-emerging. Take the situation in Europe, when the virus probably came out of Nigeria, maybe 2018. But then it got into the homosexual community, and they went for their meeting in somewhere, and suddenly, pew, all over the world, the thing was popping up everywhere. So human behavior, human factors are all the things that could change the pattern of a disease. So in a way, a disease that is dormant can then reemerge because of changes in human behavior, which has happened with monkeypox. So you could call it a re-emerging disease, because I've been with us for ages. And if your surveillance is not good, then you don't even know what you have.
Oh, thank you very much.
Femi Popola asked a question from this, we have divergent platforms for this program. Yes. The Zoom and the YouTube. Then Femi Popola from YouTube. I don't know. I couldn't get it, but let me just ask the way he said it so that we'll be able to discern what it means.
Okay.
Also, since mpox is said to be self-limiting, is it economical to treat symptomatic ally? Or it is best with vaccine, net, which from what you said, we don't have enough of the vaccine. I think.
Is it economical to do what?
Yeah, to treat symptomatically. Is
Yeah,
it
of course,
because it's self-limiting? You say it's self-limiting.
yes.
But you say, is
again,
it economical to treat symptomatically? Which I would say is yes.
Of course. I mean, your best bet is to make sure that it doesn't spread.
Okay, thank
But also remember, complications have been setting in now, where you are having sexual transmission, where you are having infection in people with poor immunity. All those things are beginning to change in the factor. So the earlier you treat the single case you have, the simple case you have, the more economical it is so that you don't have a bigger problem in your hand. So I think I agree that it's very economical. And that's why the community involvement, the surveillance involvement, the laboratory diagnosis quickly, early detection becomes very, very important. Then you don't have too many things in your hand to treat.
Yeah, he's saying something about vaccine, but I think vaccine might not be option because because we don't have enough vaccine. We don't have enough vaccine. So unless we like COVID, it came to a stage there was a mass production of COVID vaccines, by four companies or 4 or 5 companies. And it was going around the world. But from what we see now as monkey mpox, I don't think we have up to 1% of the world population to cover. Anyway,
just from my thinking, my thing was I said we are disdaining our strength and embracing our weakness. That was exactly what I mean by that. We are focusing on vaccine when we should be focusing on surveillance. Surveillance is our strength.
So, yes, you did.
Surveillance is our strength. We don't have enough vaccines. We don't have the money for it, but we have the money for surveillance.
Yes.
Why are we not putting our money there?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Grace Kia asked one question. Dr. Kia asked one question.
Yes. Grace is asking. She said from a recent work we published on monkeypox virus, monkeypox specific primers and gene proteins failed detecting monkeypox virus in wild animals and hunters, although we set out thinking we should. Could you please speak to this? Let me go through that again. She said from a recent work they published on monkeypox specific primers and gene proteins failed detecting monkeypox virus in wild animals and hunters, although they set out thinking it should. So, Prof, could you just speak a little bit on that?
First of all, although I mentioned that PCR is the best method, it doesn't mean it's sufficient. There's the old method we used to use in those days was to inoculate, laboratory animals, and that would take you like weeks and weeks and weeks, So, but the WHO and others are pushing for development of better diagnostic method. So the PCR will detect. The situation could be that in the domestic animals that you trap, they didn't have monkeypox. That could be one explanation. But it's also to remember also that the test itself is not, it doesn't detect all the strains that you have. What people are having is what is an autopox virus, broad-based something, and some of the specific ones are not detected. So I think there's a push to develop better sensitive diagnostic tests, and that could, answer the questions on this. A lot of mentioning what you're saying, in 1978, when we had that case in Nigeria, actually I was called in Ibadan. We were still in Ibadan then to begin to look at it, and we went around looking for trapping squirrels in different parts of the old Oyo state. We couldn't find any virus, even by a system of inoculation. So again, it's going to the field to sample animals is a gamble. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. If you're lucky, you get the needle. If not, you get the hay.
Yeah, but
So,
in this case, Prof, I think catching those animals and infecting them and see what we'll do, or see what will follow, will be another option. Because these animals might not have them today, they might have them tomorrow. I'm talking about, I'm talking about trying to be proactive. This animal might not have them today because they don't have access to them. But if you infect them and monitor them to see whether they can proliferate in those animals, or whether the clinical course can follow, can flow in those animals, might be another way of studying for the future.
Yeah,
because we are arranged in a situation whereby the future is uncertain. As these diseases are reimagined, the future is uncertain. You don't know which one will reemerge tomorrow. So we might put a hold on it today by doing an advanced study. You are listening well, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No, you understand my line of thought?
Sure. I mean, that's another step. But the first step, we even know which animal has it.
Yes.
That's the first thing, because it's not every animal that will react to infection with the monkeypox. So if you don't even know which one has it to start with, and that's why people check for antibodies, several species of rodents and things. You remember in 2003, it was the importation of rodents from Ghana that led to the first reported monkeypox in the US. These rodents were imported into as pets and things of that nature, and then infected local species of animal there, which then infected human beings. So we don't know which one has it. And there have been laboratory experiments, as you said, to infect animals, some of them. But then it's probably far cheaper for us to even start from the beginning, do a survey, animal survey all over the whole place there. We did that in the 70s and 80s. It didn't cost that much money to get up, set traps, go into the field, bring them back. And like I said, jokingly I said, the tire of my president's, or the spare tire, the cost of that will buy enough resources for us to do some studies here. These are issues that we're not focusing. And that's why I raised the point that when they label us as resource limited or resource whatever, we are not. We are not. We are resource.
Prof, you're saying that it's possible that we may not be able to detect the virus, but we may be able to detect antibodies specific to monkeypox virus in these animals.
Yeah, people have done that. I mean, take the issue of Lassa fever. People have detected antibodies in rodents and things, and very few have been able to isolate the virus from the rodents.
That means in one way or the other,
we've been on field looking for Lassa fever and trap rodents in people's houses and all that.
Okay.
And not gotten but you do an antibody survey, you see this. Even look at the common COVID-19 that we had recently in Nigeria. Despite the fact that the numbers that NCDC was giving us was like 3,000. Every time we did a survey, in fact, the last set of surveys showed that over 80% of Nigerians had been infected with the virus.
See?
And yet, we're only getting 3,000 cases be reported for the country. So antibody survey gives you a better information, but it's a chance thing to find the virus. But if the antibody is there with you, if you have been infected before, you don't know, the antibody will show. So the antibody survey gives you much better result than going to do specifically for a virus in the field.
But I think coronavirus, there are a lot of strengths in the veterinary
Exactly.
medicine. There are a lot of strengths of coronavirus that can give from even cats had dogs had coronavirus. Yeah. We even vaccinate them against coronavirus. I think what might be the picture here is that some of those humoral antibodies they are getting might be from other strains of coronavirus. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility, but
there's a possibility.
Also,
it's a possibility.
but then you see the argument which supported that it was is that when the first wave came and we tested the population of Nigeria, the seropositive rate was about 20%. The next wave came, that number went to 60%.
Okay.
The third wave came and became 90%. So really, I mean, if it had been corona, they would have been there even from onset when we came, before we came in. So definitely the COVID played some role in the antibody levels we're getting.
Okay.
So that's why we're able to compare. Before COVID came in, what was the positive rate? It was less than 10%. Following the first wave, the thing jumped to 25%. The second wave took it to 60%, and the last wave took it to 80-something. So that's the reason why we thought, look, this was actually COVID infection, not any other corona type.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof. I think someone is raising his hand. He wants to ask a question or maybe make a comment. Dr. Victor Uyerumba. Victor, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, good morning, my colleagues. Thank you very much, Prof, for your lecture. My question, it's not really a question, but a kind of contribution, trying to be proactive. I don't know if our colleagues in NQX is on board here, because there's a lot of wild animal sales and transportation, both locally and internationally, going on presently, which most of us do not know. So I think a lot has to be done at the point of entry, where I think is the job of the NQS, the National Quarantine Service, to sit up and do something about it. So that, because from what we are saying, wildlife sales and transportation plays a very big role in what we've heard today. That's just my little contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor.
Very much, Victor. Thanks.
I like your picture.
Yeah.
Prof, you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to say that I support what he has said.
Okay.
Bearing in mind that
why are you supporting what he said under a porous border atmosphere like Nigeria?
No, wait, let me.
Why are you supporting him? And you had earlier said we have porous border. Maybe the level of porosity which you are having in your mind is far, far below what is on the ground.
Yeah, the support is the fact that we need to be very careful with the wild animals, particularly as we don't know which one yet carries the monkeypox. So we look at each one with suspicion and assume that until proven otherwise, this one can be a monkeypox carrier, you know, and that's the kind of thing I'm trying to support I'm saying. And also to say that we know that, I mean, I mentioned the situation in 2003 when it was the importation of rodents into America that led to the first case of monkeypox in America. So that's enough lesson for us to know that, you know, these wild animals will remain a source, a potential source of infection. Particularly, as I mentioned in the slide, people who are dealing with the raw animal, who are skinning the animal, who are bleeding them, who are cooking them, who are carrying the raw around. Those are the ones. By the time you barbecue it and make suya out of it, the likelihood of the virus being there is gone. But the danger is those people who actually deal with the raw animals, who take up who skin them, who take them from the field, who bring them onto this roadside, and all those kind of things. Those are the ones that I'm more worried about than the man who is eating suya.
Yeah, I think we're coming almost to the end of this discussion. Is there any other question?
Yes, there's not actually a question, but I think it's a comment from Grace Care. Grace is saying, as DNA virus mpox should be an easier viral infection to control compared to even Ebola, which we succeeded controlling against. So really, your take on enhanced surveillance backed with contact tracing and integrated supportive treatment is a way to go. Okay, she's just supporting what Professor Tomori said. Then Chiluka Okoli also made a comment. He said, if the Mpox virus in wide population is mutating, it might be difficult to target specific virulent genes using PCR. I do not think it's necessarily the inability of the primers we used not being able to detect the Mpox in our target animal. So I think he's responding to what Grace Kia earlier asked, you know. So I think
yeah, I think okay, Prof wants to say something.
I just wanted to say that the issue of mutation, there are factors that are responsible for mutation. Within the animal species, a stable animal species, you're not going to get too much mutation. Particularly, or even the DNA viruses, they don't mutate that much. With the RNA, of course, that's it. That's not it. But then, in a stable population, animal population, separating among themselves without anything, the problem we're having is when there's cross-species transmission, and when there are new modes of transmission, from the general contact, person-to-person contact, to now sexual transmission becomes a major thing. In a person, for example, who has HIV, or in a person who is pregnant. And that's the opportunity for the virus to weaken immunity, to become what you mutate and become what you want to become. Over.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Ekene. You can see the way you handle your granddaughters, a Prof. That you did well. Okay, the way the granddaughter handled the grandfather. You see, we are bringing stories and narrative along the way, where we bring people of age brackets, professional brackets, different, divergent, be it gender, whatever, bringing them together so that they can learn from each other. The young one will learn from the old elders will learn from the young one. We are dealing with narratives across the board.
Yes.
We are not peculiar. We are not particular.
Yes.
That is our mode of thought, and that is our thought process. And well, on this call, we have Professor Julius Ayedun from Ilori. We have Professor Pele Kudi from Ahmadu Bello University. We have Professor Musa Usman from Othman Dan Fodio University. Then we have people like us who do not wait for salary, who must struggle for our salary. People like Dr. Kunle Abiade. Yes. Kunle Abiade is on this call. And then Professor Michael Asusumai, who is a medical professor, a medical doctor, a professor of community medicine that led the human wing of avian influenza control during the scourge. He is here also, and then we will bring him maybe next month or in 2 months' time to discuss interdisciplinary areas in public health. He will come here. You know, he has erupted a bit, but we want him to excel more, so that we'll be able to learn and, if possible, package a team for him to work with. So that those indifferent teams he have tried to work with. But one thing I know is that what he's discussing was tangential to some, to an area, indifferent area. But we'll give him an area that, like Ekene is here. There are younger. You see, one thing, there are younger vets who are professors who have done a lot of studies in public health. They have gone beyond the older narrative. We will package, trust me, we have Professor Ayedumis here. We will package young vets for you, or we can even pocket older vets for you. The only thing is that we will package willing ones. We won't give you the unwilling ones. We'll give you the willing ones. Just trust in me. But if I don't do it well, meet me in the village and knock me on my head.
Who would dare
That's
do
when
that?
the older ones punish the younger ones in my area. Well, I think Abiade, do you have anything to tell us so that we can call it a day? We have we have the former executive director of NVRI, David Shamaki, is here with us.
Ah, David.
David Shamaki is here with us. So we have catalogs of people. You see, this platform is a magnet for a lot of people, a lot of yes, in our we will allow Professor Kudi and Dr. Abiade to just talk. Then I will thank Oga, Professor Tomori, and then we'll move forward. Professor Dr. Abiade, once you finish, I'll call Dr. Kudi. And then yeah, somebody is thanking me. Yeah. Oga, you go ahead today.
You're yabbing my in-law.
I want to say a big thank you to Professor Tomori. I said it's another vintage Professor Tomori. I know that we are all his children, and he has never failed us. He just like his voice is like a Lone Ranger. He's always bringing out all these advice to those who are in government, but we just pray that there'll be a paradigm shift. We have so much endowment in this country, but unfortunately, we are not using our best hands. Seriously, sometimes it makes our heart beat. It makes us so much angry that we are in this type of country, or that they are not ready to listen to us. We're going to pray. Thank you so much for this wonderful enlightenment that you are giving today. I think many of us that we all need to, go and listen to this lecture and then circulate it so much. I expect the whole forum to be filled up, but unfortunately, we need to recirculate it to all the forums so that they can know and have more knowledge about Xbox. It's a wonderful lecture. So, Dr. Ibe, thank you for bringing this this opportunity. And my in-law, Professor Ezenduka, thank you very much for doing a good job. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Professor Kudi, please. We want to hear your golden voice.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And your handsome face too.
I want to appreciate Prof, honestly, for this wonderful, thought-provoking lecture. As serious as Mpox is, I think we have a more dangerous thing concerning our nation, really, because I'm so saddened to hear all these issues that we have the resources and diseases simply we cannot control. We can't even do a good surveillance. I think it's something for us to, keep in mind and actually be proactive about and think of how we can move forward. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Kudi. And those in YouTube, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you make this travel wide. Just click the subscription and the notification buttons to be reminding you of next time. And for those of us who will watch this video later, because we're going to circulate the video later, help us to subscribe to our channel. And then Professor Tomori, hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Professor Tomori, we are like Oliver Twist. One good turn deserves another. So expect us sometime in future to bring you on this board, because Oliver Twist always asks for some more. For those of us who read Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, we will always ask for more. The more you give, the more we will ask. And then to our colleagues who found time today to come and be with us, thank you very much. We will bring more narrative. We are bringing Professor Mike Asuzu. He's going to discuss this interdisciplinary. And then we will call on him, and we call on you, Professor Tomori, to assist him in this drive of bringing our colleagues together. so that we can have a way forward. Funds are flying left, right, and centers. And one thing I advise my colleagues, especially the younger ones, if you are in public health or in any area you are, and there's an international summit, first of all, even if you are not sponsor yourself. Because globally, you are going there and you see the global people, and they can bring you into one research or the other. Am I lying, Professor Tomori? And
No,
I do. I know that when you started, you were not sponsored. You might be sponsoring yourself so that you can get noticed. If you are not noticed, you cannot be noticed. If you don't give yourself to be noticed, you cannot be noticed. Look at me, a trader, when I went to Egypt for World Poultry Veterinary Association. I asked one question. 4 scholars came to me. Do you have any area we can cooperate? Because these are your questions. I know I didn't want to tell them I'm a trader, but I dodged them. Not to talk about if I am in research and I'm in that kind of fora. There are tea time, coffee time, you can brainstorm. And in the process of brainstorming, you have a leeway. You cannot be an indoor person and expect an outdoor blessing. I say it several times. You cannot be an indoor person and expect an outdoor blessing. Revolve and reticulate yourself in one place. If possible, inbreed yourself. Stay in one university and get all your master's, PhD, professor, and still remain in that place. No. You must break out to chill out. But be it that is made, Prof, thank you very much for being in this platform. And then Professor Kenneth, thank you that you didn't have goose pimple, moderating somebody that is as old as your grandfather.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
My name is Tomori Twist, so don't worry about Oliver Twist.
Okay.
Anytime. You know.
Okay. We'll call you. We'll call you up. Don't worry, we'll call you up. As diseases are imagined to re-emerge, unless they stop to emerge, or to re-emerge.
We continue to,
In fact, you have not even spelled. One day you're going to spell out the difference between emerging diseases and re-emerging diseases. But I think from historical perspective, we might not be getting good research or good details what happened in the past. So that when those diseases emerge, we call them, we call them, when they re-emerge, we call them emerging. You know, from my own historical perspective, maybe there were no details studied in the Dark Ages.
That's it.
Well, when you nod to me, I'm a trader. I'm not a scholar. I'm a trader. The only thing is that when you produce vaccine, we market. So I think that's it. In the Dark Ages, there were no studies. These diseases are there in the subnatant phase. You're looking for opportunities to emerge, either by climate, either by weather, or whatever that makes them, you know, when we are studying biology, we say this is condition responsible for seeds to germinate. If these conditions are not there, they will not germinate. Even one of them is not there, they will not germinate. But
that's true.
When all of them there, they are germinate. They are only waiting for when they will erupt, because is the point for them to erupt. If the condition for them to erupt, they will erupt. Well, especially now, people are expanding their houses into the bushes, expanding new layouts into the forests because of population explosion, because now the migratory phase of people are so high. People travel a lot. Airliners are making the best of money now because people travel for a lot of reasons, unlike before. And as they're going, they're spreading diseases. And that's my own take to it. But anyway, I think on this note, we will